I'm currently remodeling my entire house, and my kitchen project has been the biggest and most expensive project so far. For this project, I had to gut all of the fixtures. I wanted all of the cabinets and everything taken out. I also had to gut all of the flooring and pretty much everything.
And I'm thinking about whacking this entire wall out, like so that this whole thing is open. I want the whole thing to be open. Like, can I just whack out this wall?
The first step was to get inspired, so I got on Pinterest and started looking up all sorts of retro-looking kitchens and different ways to do shelving and things like that, as well as coming up with my color schemes. And then we had to get the measurements, and I had help from my aunt, who just happens to have a lot of experience in interior design. So we wrote up all of the measurements, and then the next step was to gut the entire thing. Now, people love free stuff, so all I had to do was put an ad on Facebook Marketplace saying free countertops, free cabinets, free gas range to whoever comes and picks the items up and then uninstalls them for me. And it didn't take long for several people to respond. And after a while, all of the cabinets, the countertop, the sink, everything was taken off the walls, and they took them out for me. And then I got to work gutting the rest. So I started with the floor. There was this horrible tile, and I just got a hammer and just started prying it up piece by piece and boxing it up. And to my surprise, I was able to get rid of that for free too. And then I got super excited because of the wood floor underneath. I was hoping I would be able to sand and stain it, but plans change. More about that shortly. But the next big step was ripping out this wall. I hated the teeny tiny doorway. I thought it served absolutely no purpose. So I hired my good friend Josh to come and do some measurements and to whack it out and then reinforce it. So he managed to get the whole thing done in about one day and opened it up, and I think this is so much better. I've learned several lessons along the way from this kitchen remodeling project. The first lesson I learned is that everything will take twice as long as you planned, and everything will cost at least twice as much as you estimated. So here I am taking off all of the wall panels in the kitchen, and I was hoping the lath and plaster would be stable underneath and that I could just mud over it. I was wrong. Another big lesson I learned is to plan ahead. I did not have a dumpster or anything ready and did not plan on having this much trash, which just sat in my house until I could properly dispose of it. And then I learned another lesson, which is to get an asbestos test before you start ripping everything apart. It was actually very dangerous and stupid of me to be ripping everything out without knowing what was in there. Fortunately, I got the test and there was no asbestos. Thank goodness. So then once I learned that trying to mud over the lath and plaster was no longer an option, I had to go to work ripping it all out. So here I am using a hammer. I had boxes to collect it, but it made a huge, horrible mess, and I wish I had rented a dumpster and done this properly. So here all the insulation is coming out. I ran across a couple of old mouse nests in there, and I pretty much had to gut everything down to the studs. Now there was fiberglass in there, so it was incredibly itchy, and thank goodness I wore a mask and goggles like I was supposed to. So here it is, gutted all the way down to the studs, but the interior wall was mostly intact, so we decided to just leave that one. Another lesson I learned is that you'll run into projects that you didn't anticipate having to do. So a lot of the electrical outlets were actually in really bad shape and had to be replaced. Chipping away at all the lath and plaster was time-consuming, but absolutely worth it in the end. I found the old chimney, which I don't think will be usable, but that's okay. I just like the exposed brick. Once I got everything out and got it cleaned up, my friend Josh insulated everything for me and also did all of the drywall. Throughout this project, I was often torn about which jobs I should do myself and which ones I should hire someone to do. I decided that if it was dangerous or one of those jobs that just really needed to be done right, I would hire someone with experience. Plus, I enjoy giving money to my friends. So I probably could have learned how to do drywall, but why would I? It looks like such a pain in the butt. Fortunately, the ceiling was intact, so we just textured over it and painted it real good. And I also ended up applying some of the texture to the walls as well.
It's a good thing.
Yep. Look at all that drywall.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
My other good friend Whitey did all the electrical work for me, so he added a few additional outlets and there was another one that needed to be replaced. And then I had to address the dilemma, which was my flooring. This house is about 100 years old, and I was super excited when I found the wood floor underneath, but after talking to enough experts, I realized that this is not the kind of flooring that can just be sanded and stained. So, much to my disappointment, plus there were several holes, I decided to listen to the people who knew best and just do a subfloor on top along with a nice vinyl flooring, and I'm so glad I let them convince me to make that decision. And that's another lesson I learned along the way, is that plans change and sometimes they change for the better. So even though I didn't get to sand and stain the original hardwood floors, what I have in there now is much safer than what I was originally planning. I'm so glad I hired somebody to do the drywall and the subfloor and the flooring actually. Even though those are things I probably could have learned how to do myself, I wanted it to be done right. So I got this nice quality vinyl flooring. I chose a light color because I want the room to look a little bit bigger. It's kind of a small house. And this vinyl flooring is going to be extended throughout the entire house. So we had to stagger it. But I can only do one room at a time, so for now it's going to be staggered into the sunroom and into the living room, and it's not going to be completed for a while, but I think it looks absolutely beautiful. Installing this tongue and groove flooring is not difficult at all. It's pretty much something anyone could learn how to do, but I went ahead and paid my friend to do it because he's so much faster than I am. Finally, we got to the cabinets. So I ordered just your basic standard cabinets, nothing fancy or special, and I ended up getting this teeny tiny range, which I think is just absolutely adorable. This is me making my, oh my gosh, look at how cute this range is face. And I had my friend install all of that as well because I wanted to make sure it was all level and installed correctly. Now, I had several ideas about how to paint it. One, I was looking at all of my inspiration on Pinterest. I really like this color scheme from the 70s, and I was trying to figure out how to do a multicolored cabinet scheme, and every single thing that I tried just didn't look right, and I didn't care for it. And then I thought about maybe doing the cabinets mostly white and maybe having the paint stripes come up just a little bit. And then I had a friend on Facebook give me an idea, which I thought was absolutely genius, to do the stripes only on the backsplash, only on the wall. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's perfect. So I had to measure it out, and then I put all of the stripes in place. And then I was able to paint my striped wall with that 70s retro color scheme. Another lesson I learned is to buy better quality items. Like sometimes it's okay to cheap out and sometimes it's better to get the nicer stuff. So I went with the more expensive cabinet paint, and I'm glad I did. And here you can see a cheap yellow paint, and I'm like, no, that was a bad idea. So I ended up having to scrap that and start over with a nicer one. So sometimes it's better to splurge and get the better stuff, because this paint had a built-in primer and it goes on so smooth and it just looks so nice. So then after we painted the cabinets, I was able to start painting my stripes, my retro color. It's a dark brown at the bottom, and then kind of a burgundy color, and then an orange on top of that, and then a yellow. My stripes are my favorite part of my kitchen. I was so excited to do this, and I'm really glad I decided not to go with the multicolored cabinets, but to keep it kind of simple and instead just have like a nice accent wall. And since I've got some funky colors on that side of the kitchen, I decided to keep the other side as clean and white as possible. So then my friend had a nice shelf built for me, which he installed over that opening that leads into the sunroom. And my other friend came and happily installed my oven vent. It all had to be hooked up, and he had to climb into the attic in order to do so.
Yay, Forstner bits.
Yep.
There's paperwork up there.
Now, for some reason, my countertops kept getting delayed, so it took forever to finally get them in and have them installed. And that's another thing that you can anticipate if you do any big remodeling project, is there are always going to be delays and nobody is ever in a hurry to do anything. But when they finally arrived, my friend got them installed for me, and I was trying to find kind of a dark brown color to match that bottom paint stripe. And I think I did pretty good. The color wasn't as close as I wanted, so I ended up getting a different paint. And I was torn about what to do with the wall on the other side, but ultimately I ended up going with this plastic backsplash, which is crazy expensive. And my friend did most of it, and I did a couple of the pieces, and I got these floating white shelves, which I absolutely love. So then we went about getting the sink installed, and it was so nice to finally have a functioning sink and not have to wash my dishes in the bathroom anymore. And after putting everything away, this is what this side looks like. My friend built a brand new window frame, which is very similar to the shelf that he put in. Isn't it cute? I am a sucker for all things vintage and retro, so I picked up a couple of these pieces at a flea market. Of course, you have to have mushrooms if it's a 70s style kitchen, and I got this adorable frog from my grandparents' house along with this clock which hung in their kitchen for ages, and I brought the clock home and I hung it up on my wall, and it will stay with me for as long as I live. Coming to the end of a project is such an incredible feeling, because then all I had to do was paint the window frame and the shelf and do just a couple of last-minute touch-ups. The last thing I needed help with was having my light fixture installed, so I called my electrician friend again, and he happily came over and helped get it all put together. And I found this adorable light fixture for $30 at Lowe's. And after screwing in one light bulb, I realized, wow, this sucker is bright, and it is so bright. So I don't know that I'm gonna have all of the light bulbs going at once, but isn't it cute? Oh, I'm so happy with my light fixture. A big thanks to my friends Josh and Whitey for all their help. And just look at these before and after pictures. This has been an enormous project, and I'm so glad that it's finally done, and I just absolutely love my new kitchen, and I couldn't be happier.